All right. Good evening. I am really excited to be here. Let's be a little transparent. I do a lot of these presentations, especially on mindset, which makes me excited because mindset is so important. Uh, but I wanted to do something a little bit different for you all, just because I recognize that your role as parents when it comes to mindset is unique. I believe, I may not have, so bear with me. I believe last time when we spoke, I shared the importance of everybody finding their lane. Let me back up real quick. I talk a lot about the triad. So when we speak of the triad, we're talking about the parents, the athlete themselves, and coaches. And so, in order to reach a champion minded culture for your kids to reach their goals, it's important that each member of the triad knows and executes their very particular role. What often happens that keeps athletes from reaching their goals is that either there is somebody in the triad who is not fulfilling the role, or people in the triad are joining one another's lanes. Shelly, do you remember if we
Yeah,
talked
we did talk a little bit
about
about
that or
that. Yep,
not?
a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what's unique about mindset is that it is one of those times where everybody in the triad needs to join this or drive to this destination. So, everyone's staying in their lane. Well, all of us converge in mindset. All right. So, when we talk about mindset, let me start my visuals for you. So, what we're going to talk about tonight is mindset. And I believe that in my experience in over 30 years in this crazy world of cheerleading, I have found that mindset is the single most important element that is either helping or hindering athletes from reaching their goals. So, let's talk a little bit about where this term mindset came from. Before we get to that, I want to make sure that we remember that at the end of the day, parenting is by far the hardest job that we are ever going to do. With my background in psychology, kinesiology, having been a teacher, a therapist, working with kids for upwards of 30 years, I have found that there are essentially three things when we boil it down that all parents want at the end of the day for their kids. All of us want our kids to be happy. All of us want our kids to be able to successfully navigate through the challenges of life. And all of us are parenting our children to be good people. So the question then remains, if all of us have these goals and kind of the same goals when boiled down to the very bottom, why do so many of us struggle as parents seeing our kids not achieving their goals? Why do we as parents get so upset? Let me tell you a story about a parent I just heard from today. Her child, she would say, she would self profess that her child's a difficult child. She's raised multiple kids. This is the youngest, and this child is just hard. She's found that this child really struggles with feedback. She doesn't like to be challenged. When confronted with her behavior, there's a lot of excuses that she has found this child makes. And in fact, she reached out to me today because she was saying, "Hey, Jeff, I know you know, let's call her Shannon. I know you know Shannon well. I was thinking we were over all of this stuff, and I just realized like she had a slip." She got taken out of almost every part of her spots in the routine. She's not giving a good effort in conditioning. She's making excuses. And really, she's on her third strike in the gym. And I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do. If I realize this is an extreme example, but if this example resonates for you, I want to acknowledge that this is something that most of us really struggle with as parents. What do I mean that by that? Well, when I talk with her, it's a lot of excuses, not about her child. It's a lot of, but the coaches don't meet her where she's at. The coaches didn't communicate with me ahead of time. The coaches, and a lot of the finger pointing is on what the coaches are not doing. And this is where I would share that's when we're not staying in our lane and all we're doing is looking at what every driver around us is doing, and we're pointing out how they're not using their turn signals. Sorry for the crazy metaphor here. They're not the ones stopping at the stoplight in time. They're the ones rolling through the stop sign. At the end of the day, we've got to focus on ourselves. And if at the end of the day, we want our kids to be happy, successful in life, and be a good person, mindset is the ticket to doing that. So, mindset. Dr. Carol Dweck is the researcher out of Stanford University who has coined the term mindset. And she started studying this almost 4 decades ago. And she realized that there's this problem she's starting to see that there are some individuals who seemingly have endless amounts of talent, yet they never reach their potential. And well, there's this other group who is seemingly average, but they do go on to do big things. And one of her research elements was with fifth graders. She and her team of researchers studied 400 fifth graders, just threw them in a big collective group, right? So it wasn't on intelligence, it wasn't based on socioeconomic status, it was just this very heterogeneous, we're all different sort of group. And what she did with those 400 fifth graders is she separated them with half of them doing a nonverbal IQ test and were praised for their intelligence. And then this other half were praised for their effort. So it would sound like this. These 400 fifth graders did this nonverbal IQ test. It was fairly simple. So there was a lot of success found. And group one was told, wow, you did that so fast. Or they would be told, wow, you're so smart. You got that one right. Where group two, in the same IQ test, was given praise based on their effort, which would sound like, whoa, I noticed that one took you a while to do, but I love how you didn't give up. Man, you must give a really good effort. I see how you don't stop. I love how you're giving it your all. Large group of fifth graders, no difference in talents, intelligence, just the way in which adults phrase them in a nonverbal IQ test. You're probably getting where I'm going with this, but I think I'm going to share something that's going to shock you. So, what ended up happening is they went to give them a second IQ test, but they said it is your choice. You can either take an easier test or you can take a harder test. What do you think group one wanted? 67% of group one, the ones who were praised for their intelligence, wanted the easier test, while 92% of the second group wanted the harder version. I've got more staggering statistics to this research, but let's pause for a second and talk about why. The reason Dr. Dweck summarized was that group one, conscious or unconscious, had this fear that if I get it wrong, I am no longer then the smart one. If I can't get it quick and easy, then maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. And so 67, two-thirds of the group one did not want to risk the way in which somebody saw them, so they chose the easier test. Group two, the one who was praised for effort, not their score. It had nothing to do, just effort praise. Oh, I love how hard you worked. 92% of them, that's more than 9 out of 10 of them, wanted to do the harder test because, conscious or unconscious, they recognized, well, I have like nothing to lose because all that matters really is, am I trying hard? Am I using strategies? Am I giving a good effort? Let's see what happens next in the third part of this research. Okay, so what happens next is they give everybody the same IQ test, but it is an impossible one. It is well beyond what a fifth grader would be able to normally do. And this is what the researchers found: that group one, the intelligence praise group, became frustrated. They gave up early, while group two, that effort group, they worked harder, they worked longer, and they enjoyed it more. So some of you may right now be like, yeah, but what were their scores? You're going to learn about this. That question is fixed minded. But I also got you because I realize it's a real question. Like, okay, but how does this? I get the like what we saw in action, but like, give me the details, Jeff. Give me the data. What happened next? So don't you worry. What researchers did next is they gave them a fourth and final test. Now, this test was just as easy as the first one, where everyone seemingly scored the same on average, right? But on average, what happened in this just as easy IQ test was group one scored a staggering 20% lower than they did from the first test, while group two scored 30% higher. There is a 50% gap between group one and group two. Is anyone else having a WTF moment? Sorry, I'm from Chicago. This is my excuse for swearing. What in the world? They didn't know these people? These were just random researchers in like a single day giving different types of praise. This is a little side note. I don't remember the specifics to it. Um, but one of the things that I found fascinating in terms of character, we want all our kids to be a good person, right? That third thing all parents want. Do you want to guess what happened when they asked the students to give their score of that final test to the researchers who were in the next room? Do you want to guess what happened? I don't remember the number, but it was something like 75% of group one lied about their score. I understand kids lie. It's a part of development. As parents, it's important that we do have that, understand that lane of child development. If they're going to lie, we actually need them to lie, because if your child doesn't lie, they are going to really struggle in life. I know we can have that conversation later, but as a former marriage and family therapist who studied this, like, got to know your kids do need to know how to lie. But We also know that integrity, character is important. And it's part of being a good person, being as honest as you possibly can. And this, what Dr. Carol Dweck would say, fixed mindset causes our students, our kids, our athletes to fear what everyone thinks of them each and every moment throughout the day. Just so that we're all on the same page, I want to make sure that I'm being clear with our language here. So, when we say mindset, what we're talking about is the way in which a person views their talent, ability, and intelligence. How smart do I think I am? How capable am I at learning or accomplishing a new task? How just innately skilled am I at something? And Dr. Dweck has found that there are essentially two types of mindsets. There is this fixed mindset, which conscious or unconscious believes that I only have a limited amount of talent, ability, and intelligence. And because I'm constantly worried about how much talent, ability, and intelligence you think I have, my coaches think I have, my friends think I have, I am constantly looking for the finish line. So if I get an A on a test, it means I'm smart. If I win a trophy, we win first place, it means I'm good, I'm talented. But unfortunately, the opposite then is true, right? If I don't win, I don't get an A. If I don't move up, if I don't learn a new skill quickly, then maybe I am not as talented as I thought I was. And so, what this develops is this I want things right away. I don't know how good I am or how much worth I have unless I can compare myself to the people next to me. And if I have more or better than them, then I feel good. But if I have less, I'm devastated because I think that I've hit my end. I've hit as much as I can do. And so then my goal is going to be perfect, right? I don't ever want to do something where somebody sees my flaws for fear of how they're going to see me. And so I have a tendency to avoid challenges. The opposite or the converse of that is this growth mindset, this belief, conscious or unconscious, that I can improve through hard work, use of strategies, assistance from other people. And because I believe that I can grow and improve, I don't need to focus on the end to tell me my worth or my value. I just focus on each moment. I focus on my behaviors. I focus on my effort. I focus on what I'm doing right now and whether or not that's helping me improve to get to my finish line. And so what it ends up doing is it causes an athlete or a person to then to want to work really hard for the things that they want. They don't see the other person as a threat. They see them as someone they can learn from. Instead of focusing on being perfect, they focus on improving. Or in the coach's lane, I call it excellence. We'll get to it, but cheerleading is a perfection based sport. And so inherently in our sport is this really big limiter, which is, well, Jeff, if the most perfect team wins, oh, that's really hard. How do we not coach this fixed mindset? And parents, I will talk a little bit more about cheerleading as a sport. And so we're going to get on that. But when I talk to coaches about their lane, I give them the strategy of stop focusing on perfection and focus on excellence, which is the idea of constant improvement. And then finally, the characteristic of this growth mindset is that when you realize that your challenge, your brain is growing and improving. So when you're faced with challenges, it's like an opportunity. It's fun. It's like a game. All right. I'm going to slow down for a minute. I have a question if I were you that I want to ask right now. But now that we're on the same page on mindset, kind of what is it, I'm wondering what questions you might have about mindset. Feel free to bring your kids into the example or the question. And if not, then I've got a question that I would imagine most parents would want to be knowing right now.
I can ask a question. I have to get off here in a minute, but what do you think
If you
is,
have one, yeah.
I have a good one. What do you
Good.
think is the most effective way to help an athlete change their mindset? Because, right, that mindset is
Mm,
formed by so many outside stimuli. It's not just parents, it's not just coaches, there's so many
mm,
things feeding into that. So how do we help
yeah.
best support them that to drown out those outside things, right? Because it is, and I know you said you're going to talk about it specifically to cheerleading, so I'll
Yeah.
listen for my lesson, but
For
um
sure. Sure.
with so many outside things constantly pushing and them seeing, it's hard, I think, often for they hear it in so many different aspects, right?
Yeah. So that's an excellent question, Shelley. The question at hand is if everything is impacting a person's mindset, then what is the most effective way to sort of reverse this toxic, unhelpful way of thinking? One of the things that Shelley's asking, not direct, but it's indirect, you can change your mindset. Our brains, this is like just the brain science, you can change the way that your brain thinks. You can change those habits. I'm hoping parents out there right now, some of you are doing some self reflection, looking in the mirror, going, wait, I think I might have a fixed mindset. Yes. Uh huh. Yeah. Give a little personal inventory here. I came across this concept of mindset from one of my clients, of all people, like, I don't know, 12 years ago. He was a procrastinator, super gifted, but he couldn't do well in school because he was never turning anything in, but he was quite brilliant. And he's like, "Oh, I read this book, Mindset." And I was like, "Oh, this sounds great." That's where all this came from. And I recognize after reading this book, like, oh my gosh, I have this wildly strong fixed mindset. Why I share that, parents, is that when we say fixed mindset, and I'm sharing, oh, maybe you might be looking in the mirror going, I have a fixed mindset. Ditto. This is a free to fail environment. This is a absolutely I mess up parenting my kid, parenting myself, my relationship with my husband. I hit fixed mindset all the time. Shelly would attest. I over and over and over again in every presentation I've done, I have probably said, I worry that I'm not doing a good job and that I'm not answering your questions. And she probably every single time we talk, Jeff, you're doing fine. That people pleasing habit that I have is fixed mindset. That voice that says I'm never good enough, fixed mindset. And we can start to change those neural pathways. I didn't say like completely eliminate it and have, roses and unicorns and violins playing in our brain, but we can be better. I am 1,000 times better than I was 12 years ago before I read Mindset. I am more growth minded. I am able to see challenges as opportunities better. I'm less people pleasing. I am more focused on excellence than perfectionism. And to Shelley's question, most of it has to do with feedback. I'm going to give way more strategies than that, but Shelly asked, what, 7 minutes ago? What is the most effective tool, Jeff? The answer, feedback. Think of just go back to what we just learned.
Right.
No impact at all with these researchers, but like a 10-minute test and then the feedback they gave, that's a standard for how these two different groups function for the rest of the day. And all it was the words that these researchers used. And they weren't even critical on either. It was both were praise, but what type of praise? And we're going to get into it, but I wanted to answer the question. There's this product praise or outcome praise. And that outcome praise is you're so smart, you're so beautiful, you learn that so quick, you're so talented, outcome praise. And then there's process praise. And process praise is the way in which you come about something, your effort, your hard work, the use of strategies, not giving up, asking questions, celebrating failures. So, process praise versus outcome praise is the single most effective tool to help rewire ours and our kids' brains. Shelly,
Thanks, Jeff.
I'm going to give myself, this is a really quick growth mindset thing. I'm going to give myself a little anchor. I did that before Shelly left. I'm very proud of myself. Sometimes time management is not a strength of mine. All right. So let's move on to the next piece of mindset. Let's also level set. I realize Shelly has to go and do a lesson. Growth mindset would be so, this is an opportunity where you and I can interact because at the end of the day, I want to make sure I'm providing you all help. The more questions you ask, and that could be unmuted or put into the chat. If you're nervous, your fixed mindset is going off. What are people going to think of my question? You can send the question through Zoom chat just to me personally so that I'm the only one who knows specifically who it's from. If you do have questions, which will help you learn more and apply this to your specific scenario. I apologize. See, I do this. I'd like, woo. But one thing I am really strong at is I'll come back to it. Thank you all for going on the journey with me. One thing I want to do is shout out each of you for being on this call. Yes, you may not be asking questions. I am only going to guess the reasons why, because I can't know. But I do know the fact that you would be on this call tells me that you have growth mindset. All right. With that being said, the question that I would ask if I were you all, the question I would be asking is, wait, so are you saying we have only a growth mindset and only a fixed mindset? The answer is no. We have, all of us, we all have typically some variation of mindset, meaning in some areas I'm more growth minded, and in some areas I'm more fixed minded. I call it a mixed mindset. So, really, the focus is on celebrate, anchor, when I am using my growth mindset. Oh, I didn't do that well before, but I'm doing better now. Or I could, when I'm being fixed minded, just acknowledge it. I'm talking about mindfulness this week on my social media. Be mindful when you're using your fixed mindset and make a choice to change it. I believe it was Venus Williams. I just saw a reel from her last night. It was really good. I'm probably gonna use it in my social media. So if so, you're gonna like, Jeff talked about that. She was talking to an interviewer, and she was reframing failure. And what she said was so impactful to me. I wanted to say brilliant outcome product praise, but I switched it in my head before I said it out loud. Oh, what she said was so deeply impactful to me. She said, failure is not making a mistake. Failure is when you make a mistake and you keep making the same mistake. So rather than looking at like challenges or missed skills as, oh, I failed, I'm not perfect, look at it as an opportunity to learn from the failure to level up next time. Because truly, every mistake is actually a gift. It's a gift telling you what you could do better or what you can improve on. Let's dive in. If there are no questions, let's dive into a little bit more about what a fixed mindset looks like or sounds like so that we can improve our own mindfulness around it. When we hear things from our kids like, I can't, fixed mindset. Because remember the definition, fixed mindset is the belief that your talent, ability, and intelligence is limited. So when we say I can't, we're saying I've hit the end. I'm never going to be able to move past it. I'm just not good at fill in the blank. Earlier, I said, I'm not great at time management. I didn't say I'm just not good at time management, meaning I'm never going to be good at it. I struggle with time management. Sometimes I go over. So I continue to work on it. And so when I can finish something on time, growth mindset, I'm going to acknowledge, Jeff, see, you can grow and improve your time management. Hearing things like, it's not my fault, that's too hard. I always do this wrong. I never do anything right. I should go do my homework. I shouldn't have fill in the blank. Yes, but those caveats most of the time are very fixed minded statements. There's a lot of shame in them. I should, I shouldn't. I say this often to the athletes I work with, don't should on yourself. Parents, I'm going to give that one to you for free. Stop shoulding on yourself. I should really do the dishes right now. Do you want to do the dishes right now? No. I want to rest because I've been working all day, but I really should do the dishes. How about I will do the dishes after I rest, and it's okay that I rest first? Growth mindset. They're so much better than me, that comparison trap. Giving an inconsistent effort. So, like, I try really hard in stunts, but I don't try hard in conditioning. Shannon, the athlete I brought in earlier, that inconsistent effort. She's working hard in her private tumbling lessons. Her mom assumed that she was working hard in practice, but in reality, when it came to conditioning, she would give up. And that poor effort, not being a good teammate, not leading by example, is what caused her to be removed from spots in the routine. This last one, it does work in parenting, but it's a lot of the coach's lane when your athletes are complaining, when they compare themselves, and when they criticize themselves or others, referred to as the three C's. That is another sign of fixed mindset. So then what does the growth mindset look like or sound like? When I say things like, oh, I'm learning, I can't do it yet. I'm not excellent at time management yet. Focusing on how I or how the child has improved. Uh, Reframing mistakes as knowing that there are things that will help you learn and help you grow or improve. Knowing that maybe I don't have a skill yet, but that just means maybe I need to practice more. Or if I keep failing in the same thing, how am I going to practice different? Wanting to learn from others, having the desire to ask others, like, how did you do that? What works for you? This happens a lot in the gym with stunt groups. There's a lot of the just inherent comparison that athletes do where It's just the time of the season. One group is seemingly not struggling, and another group is really having a rough go. It's super hard for this second group to not obviously see that they're feeling behind. So a growth minded group might go and ask that first group, hey, what's working for you? Or hey, can you watch us? Do you have any tips or advice? For older teams, I teach this with coaches, having athletes come in from the group that is hitting to be able to give like what it feels like to them. I want to give an example of a team just in case my fixed mindset's going off. Like, a lot of this sounds very kumbaya. You may have the resistance that a lot of coaches do. This doesn't actually happen. I was working with a team in Indiana. I do a lot of high school camps in the summer. I've been working with this team for probably 8 years. One of the athletes is a senior. I've had her all 3 years. Her name's Brenna. And her stunt group was really struggling with a drill that I was getting all the groups to do. Just a side note, I do things in what I call a ladder. For all of you who are in the mental block session, we do the same thing with mental blocks. That's why I think they're the biggest gift an athlete can go through, and coaches who can coach through mental blocks are probably some of the best coaches in the world because they understand this idea of titration or progressive exposure. Start at the bottom of the ladder that where something's easy, and then you slowly do small ladder steps, titrate up to the hard part. What a lot of us do wrong is that we jump huge ladder steps. So let's get back to Brenna and this high school team. Her stunt group was getting really frustrated, yellow light, noticing they were kind of moving into red. Hopefully, this makes sense from our last session. And she came up to me and she was like, Jeff, it's not going well. We're about to tip over and flip our lids. Help us. And I gave her a high five and I'm like, Brenna, I am so proud of you all. Your self awareness, mindfulness, that you all are at that, like, we need to slow down light, but you recognize you didn't know what to do. That is so critical because your growth mindset said, Jeff will help us. Jeff isn't going to judge us. He's not going to get mad at us. He's not going to tell a story in his head that we're lazy. So I want to commend you for being the one to come over here because, Brenna, am I right? No one else in your group wanted to come to me and ask for help. And she was like, I'm like, that's courage. I love it. I didn't say, look, you're so wonderful, blah, blah. That was courageous. Process praise. So I shared with her, hey, how about instead you go into a stunt that we did yesterday that they happen to be really good at? And they did that for, I'm not kidding, they did that for 10 minutes maybe. And so all the other groups with the goal skill, they went and distracted themselves. This other group, they're all like on progression 5 or 6. This group, Brenna's group, was on progression 2. Like, we'd all be a little frustrated. I get it. They didn't know what to do. And so they came back on their own. They self-regulated. They did the other stunt. They had fun. They're laughing. They're loose. Green light. And so they come back and they did progression 1. I didn't tell them any of this. They did progression 2, 3, 4, 5. They, not that it matters, but just for context, they caught up to all the other groups. It wasn't that they were less skilled or not talented. Something was getting into their head and they were in that comparison trap, 3 C's, and it caused their fixed mindsets to cause their lips to start flipping. And so they were not giving the best effort and the best technique they could. But they used a growth mindset, came back, and they were fine. They were able to catch back up. So I'm telling you, from every single lane, athlete's lane, Brenna's story, Coach's lane, free to fail environment, using a ladder, help them understand language of regulating emotions, mindfulness, and parents. Your lane is mostly mindset based because the praise in which you're giving your child as a student and as an athlete doesn't have, it's not the only thing that is going to impact your kid because it's not all your fault. The system, right? But that's what you can control. You can control how you praise your child, and you can control what you're going to discipline your child for or about. To give you an example, Shannon's mom, when she got this information about her daughter, she grounded her daughter and took all her devices away. I'm going to put on my MFT hat and my background. That is one way to do it. Another option would be to ask, stay regulated, as green light as you could. I get it. You're frustrated. You're disappointed. Ask what's happening in practice. Really investigate what's going on to create these behaviors of giving up, et cetera, et cetera. And then when your child's light or lid is back on, then discuss with them the consequences for their actions. Then discuss with them how can mom, how can dad help you? Because I'm telling you, this generation, we know it, but I'm going to say it. This generation feels different. And it's not because this generation is different, we're different. Our culture is different. And so if we don't start leading, one, with love, and number two, with letting our kids start to have a little bit more autonomy in making choices and doing more reflection parenting. You say you want this. You said these are the behaviors that will lead to this, but I'm seeing this. Help me understand your thought process while staying as emotionally disconnected, meaning like not flipping our lids, staying as calm as we can, is the ticket, the fastest ticket to our kids being happy, successful in life, and being the best people they can be. Questions? None? All right. So I'm going to start challenging you all. Here we go. You can throw it up in the chat. Oh, you see my ladders? You can throw it up in the chat to me. You can throw it up in the chat to everybody. Or you can unmute yourself, top of the ladder, and tell me what would happen. Okay. Why does mindset matter? Here we go. A little participation. I'm going to challenge you. Challenges help us grow. Yes, even as parents. How would your child react if they were corrected in front of the team? Do you think they would react more fixed minded or more growth minded? Peggy, thank you so much for responding. That is acting like a leader. I love it. Anybody else want to give their best effort and participate? Thank you, Jennifer. Love it. Fist bump. Sometimes it's situational, that mixed mindset, the way in which somebody is correcting me. How am I being corrected versus what's the tone of voice? Dexter, thank you. Yeah. So sometimes it depends on the type of coach that is giving it to me. Exactly. Anybody else? So, just for clarity's sake, a fixed minded reaction would be something like, oh, the coach hates me. I can't believe she embarrassed me in front of everyone. Oh, she's such a bully. I don't know why she doesn't like me. Where a growth minded reaction, right, would sound like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that wrong. Oh, I'm going to show her I can do it by being better at, let's say, our grip, whatever the athlete was being corrected on. One of the things that's really important to note, because we cannot go into the coach's lane, we cannot force a coach to coach with a growth mindset. I can, and trust me, if I could, I would. We cannot control, I couldn't control Shannon's mom and the way she was parenting her daughter. I have to stay in my lane. All I can do is be empathetic, try and understand what her motivations were, and really empathize that she was doing the best she could. And if I feel that she wants advice to help her to hugs, which I asked, hey, how can I help? And it literally was, I wanted to share that I was really frustrated and your post today was super helpful. Yeah, I can see that, your daughter seemingly doing great and then getting this news would be really disappointing. I'm sorry to hear that she's struggling in that vein, then you are also struggling. She didn't want my advice. So I stayed in my lane. And that's okay. She's doing the best she could. I don't know what her life at home is. I, I'm going to look at that as she's doing the best she can. So the same with, in this case, because I had two of you say, well, it depends on the coach a lot of the time. If a coach has got a deeper relationship with my athlete, if the coach says it in a certain way, my child might be more of that growth mindedness. And so, what Dr. Dweck would say is a true growth mindset would realize no matter how feedback is given to us, it is all an opportunity to learn. I didn't, she's not saying that all feedback is like valid and we need to take it in, but all feedback is being given in an effort to help. And if we can reframe that, sure, you didn't like the way your coach said that, and I get that. But our task as our kid, but your task is to be able to filter out the gunk. And what was your coach trying to say? Well, my coach was trying to say that they believe I can do better and they want me to do better. Yeah, exactly. But I don't like the way Coach Bridget talks to me. I hear you. So, what is your lane? And then it is helping, depending on the age of our child, the emotional maturity, what ladder step, but essentially, then your child in some way needs to have a conversation with Coach Bridget to let her know that the way in which she's communicating with me is making it hard for me to stay green light. It feels like a personal attack. It feels like you're trying to bully me because it feels like you don't care about me. To give Coach Bridget an opportunity to recognize that is not the story in my head at all. I am so sorry. I need to work on my relationship with you because that's not how I view you. That's not how I see you. I think you're a great leader. I guess I do hold you to a higher standard than your teammates because I think you're capable. So it's actually a compliment. So our role as a parent is not to just speak for our kids, but what is the hardest challenge on that ladder our kid can do? And then we support them in that challenge. Hear what I said. The hardest, not the easiest, not we email the coach, I can't believe that, Coach Bridget, I can't believe that you're sending my daughter home and bullying her. You're so mean and nasty. Just wait till you're a parent yourself. That is then your fixed mindset. Yeah, but my fixed mindset, I'm a mama bear. I can't believe she was picking on my kid. Use your growth mindset and your prefrontal cortex to emotionally regulate and not respond, tools, strategies, growth mindset, and not respond until your lid is on. And when you're at green light, and if you still feel like Coach Bridget is being unfair, then you send that email in a calm way saying that you want to have a meeting to better understand what Coach Bridget is trying to do. Because I'm telling you, 99% of coaches out there are trying to help. Their intention is to help. I'm not saying they always are being helpful, but it's their intention. And if we would just start going into conversations with people's intentions and asking questions, we're going to get a lot further along. All right. By this point, come on, Jennifer, Dexter, Peggy, help me out. Let's interact. You've got to have questions. All right. Before I get to the next part of mindset and just making sure that you all understand examples of it, how to recognize it, because really that's what a lot of this is. I want to make sure I help educate you all so that your self awareness, your mindfulness around mindset is higher so that you can recognize when you, your kid, a coach, etc., are going astray and then how to come back online. So, one of the things that I think is most important to acknowledge here, and I started to talk about it earlier, and it's that we, as a sport, cheerleading, is fixed minded. Our sport inherently trains this fixed mindset, this perfectionism. So, this is like, I don't know the right word, the conundrum, the issue at hand. Not only are we allowing our children to be a part of this sport that, when gone unchecked, is really going to create this fixed mindset, we also live in a fixed minded culture. Let me give you an example. Uh, Jennifer, if you wanted to go to a football game, but you weren't able to go, but you were really excited to go, but you know your friends went. The next day, Jennifer, when you see your friends, what is the first question you're going to ask? Dexter, Peggy, I'm coming to you all next. Be prepared. Jennifer would ask, how was the game? Nice. Dexter, Peggy, what would you ask? The football game you really wanted to go to, your favorite team. I feel like there's a football team that you all might really like, right? Your favorite team is playing. What question would you ask? Jennifer would ask, how was the game? If you're noticing any apprehension and like, oh my gosh, oh, I want to answer the right way, fixed mindset. Just answer with what is true. Dexter said, did you enjoy the experience? Okay. It's a very growth minded response. Peggy, how about you? Peggy, high five. Thank you for being clear and helping me change the story in my head. No apprehension. I just dropped the phone. No worries. What most people are going to ask? Who won? Can I get a thumbs up? Oh gosh, Peggy, I'm sorry. I hope your phone is okay. You dropped it off the second floor balcony. Most people are going to ask who won, right? What was the score? We have learned that all of these questions, totally normal questions, I'd ask it too, they are fixed minded. We are focusing on the end result. Well, not only then is our society fixed minded, we have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have TikTok, we have all of these things that are at our disposal where we are constantly inundated with what everyone else is doing. It is a constant game of comparison. I teach this stuff, you all, and I still go on Instagram and I'm like, oh, they're doing it so much better than me. Oh, why can't I? Oh, this is the worst. Why can't I look like that? Why am I so fat? Why am I lazy? Why are they getting to vacation and I can't? Man, what did I do wrong? Our society is, and if left unchecked, is fixed minded. Cheerleading versus, let's say, we use football versus football. Really quick, hopefully, I'm using a sport that we all can relate to. How often is a quarterback going to complete a pass or throw a pass that's going to be accurate and caught? Does anyone have an idea of like a good percentage? 30%? Sounds pretty good to me. I'm not probably would have been better with a baseball metaphor there, but we're on football. So let's go with like 30%. I mean, 50%. Every other. Okay, Dexter, look at that. Thank you, Dexter. 60, 70% is a high level of efficiency. Jennifer recognizes like it's definitely not 100. I know that. Um, would your kid be happy hitting 70% of their routine at a competition? Yeah, thank you. We're warming up here. We're getting the no way. Nope. In basketball, how often are you going to make a field goal? How often are you going to be able to make a free throw? How often are you going to hit a 3-point shot? A baseball pitcher, softball pitcher, how often are you going to throw balls and strikes? In all of these other golf, in all of these other sports, there is inherently built into it this growth minded opportunity of not being perfect, of like in volleyball, having to like, oh, I shanked the ball. My teammate's going to go over there and help me set it back. And there's just this inherent game of like, don't ever give up, stay in the present moment. And in cheerleading, it's like, yeah, if that stunt falls, it's kind of over for us. Uh, one as a pitcher, one ball is not game over for the whole game. Cheerleading like dance. like diving, like gymnastics, is a fixed minded sport. And without being intentionally coached, our athletes' brains, your kids' brains, start to rewire and focus on perfectionism, never making a mistake, getting it right, coaching yourself. That doesn't feel right. Oh my gosh, that pass was so awful. That pass was so ugly. How many of you parents out there feel your kid is their own hardest critic? Fixed mindset. Let's do one last doom and gloom. The more years your child is in cheerleading, the higher levels or the higher the level your child gets to in cheerleading, the more fixed minded they become. If not coached purposefully with a growth mindset. So, this is why mindset really is the magic bullet. If you can use a growth mindset in cheer, if you can start recognizing, or your child start recognizing, oh, I'm being perfectionistic, oh, I'm comparing again, it doesn't mean I'm a bad person, but that's not going to help me get to my goals faster. Oh, let's focus on my effort. Oh, they're doing a great job. How are you doing that? In cheer, if your kid doesn't make the level 3 team for the third year and instead they come home, sure, maybe they're disappointed because that was their goal, but they come home and they're like, it just wasn't my year. I'm not ready yet. But you know what? I talked to Coach Q, and he was saying that this is going to be a really good opportunity for me to work on my leadership. And I'm really excited to do that. And he was also mentioning how I wasn't in jumps last year, and I also wasn't in the elite tumbling pass. But this year, he sees that as an opportunity for me. Mom, I'm improving. I could be in every single section this year. Can you imagine your kid saying that? Because there are lots of kids who are, but they're doing so because they are being intentionally coached and parented with this growth mindset. Dexter mentioned I coach youth football. We tell the kids after a bad play, take 4 seconds, take a deep breath, and try to improve the next player opportunity. I love that. So, right now, thank you, Dexter, for sharing that. We're all learning a strategy that could help our kid, or even if we are in a coaching role at some point, recollecting ourselves is a necessary component. So, Dexter is bringing in an element of mindfulness. Oh, okay. After a bad play, I'm mindful that wasn't my best play. So, what I'm going to do is take a pause. And for them, it's 4 seconds. And that 4 seconds is going to be a deep breath. That is a physical strategy we talked about last time, along with mental blocks to help calm our nervous system to then learn from that play. I'm going to throw this up in the chat. Not that this is necessarily um, a parenting strategy, but it could be. You could make this into like about school, academics, but this is something that I train coaches on when we talk about mindset. I call it rolling with it. And what it is we want to first recognize. Yeah, I can just show you a visual instead of typing in there. I mean, who doesn't like a good visual? I know I do. There we go. First is to recognize the mistake you made. So let's use Dexter's example. A play doesn't go well. Recognize it didn't go the way you want. Own it. Growth mindset. I did that. Learn from it. Okay, next time I caused a 10-yard penalty because I jumped the line. Okay, learn from it. I need to be patient. I need to be mindfulness, get back into my breath and my body so I don't flight, zebra, jump early. And then I'm going to let it go. Because when I hold on to that mistake, it absolutely is going to impact if I don't let it go or roll with it. I absolutely am going to struggle on the next play, and it's going to be a downward spiral. How could this relate to cheerleading? It's the same idea. Bad things could happen in a routine, and growth mindset would say even if let's say a prep comes down in the pyramid, an excellent, not perfect, an excellent coach is going to train that in their kids. If something goes wrong in the pyramid, here is our game plan on what we do next. We don't give up. We don't let everything collapse after that. What we're going to do is work to make it better. We're going to recognize it didn't go great. We're going to own our part of it. We're going to learn from it, but then we got to let it go so that we can get to that next part of the pyramid to gain as many points as we can. You, as parents, can use roll with it as a when your kids say they want helped. So, to review, if your kids come home really upset and you find yourself wanting to fix it or give them advice, ask them, do you want to be helped? Do you want to be heard? Or do you want to be hugged? And only when they say helped, this is the autonomy I talked about earlier, then one strategy you can offer them is this idea roll with it, recognize your mistake, own it, learn from it, and then let it go. Oh, yeah, Peggy, good question. High five. I love that you wanted me to slow that down. So, the strategy to use with your kids if they come home from a bad practice, they have a bad competition, and you're noticing that you want to give advice, you want to fix it. Instead, ask them the question: do you want to be helped? Do you want to be heard? Or do you want to be hugged? And I'm just threw that up in the group chat. Thank you, Peggy. This is so great. Any other questions before we get to how to learn a little bit more, improve our own mindfulness with our own mindset? Because at this point, I'm hearing myself as an observer going, yeah, Jeff, this is all well and good. If I was a calm, fully formed person who was always calm. So part of the journey to the three goals every parent wants, our kids to be happy, successful in life, and be a good person, is that journey. We also have to take some time to recognize our own limiters or missteps. So let's try this. I'm looking for vulnerability here, parents. All right. How would you react if your child's team placed lower than you felt they should have? Throw your reactions up in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself. What would be your reaction? What might we hear from you or see from you? Your kids go out, they do a phenomenal routine. You watch everyone else, and you're like, oh, they got it in the bag. And then they get called, let's say, second. What would you do? Peggy, fist bump. I really appreciate your vulnerability and your honesty here. This is really helpful. Peggy said, "Well, I like winning." Okay, so I love her mindfulness, her awareness of like, I really that fixed mindset thing. Like, I love to win. Remember, there's nothing wrong with loving to win. We're in competitive sports. I'm one of the most competitive people I know, but just a little self thing here. What is it about winning? What does it mean about you when you win? What does that mean about you when you don't? Okay, that's for you later to unpack. But what Peggy said is okay, so I like winning. So I would say good try. But my daughter would read right through me because she knows I'm not being authentic. I appreciate that. Um, Peggy says she's competitive, but she doesn't know how to lose. Peggy, is that because you don't ever lose? Because if so, you need to come down here to San Francisco. We're going to play some cards. We're going to play sevens. You're going to learn to lose in the Benson household. So Jennifer said, I think it depends. We had a huge competition last year that the other team had a huge drop. And so then we just thought for sure we would win. I personally was super upset, but tried to stay positive and motivating for the team. And this is something that a lot of people sometimes get wrong with growth mindset. And they think of growth mindset in terms of being positive. Good job. Yeah, positivity is absolutely potential anchor to growth mindset. It is not much of growth mindset though. Growth mindset is very authentic. So let me give just for Peggy or Jennifer in this situation. Um, in this situation, if I felt like my kid deserved to win, I mean, this happened. My daughter doesn't play, it doesn't do cheer. She used to do soccer as of last year. And this would happen. They're playing a soccer game. The refs aren't calling a lot of the more aggressive plays. My husband's getting mad, flipping his lid. He's starting to like say things that I'm now uncomfortable with to the ref. And I'm like, we don't do that here. Stop. It's fine. The other parents on our team are saying the same thing. Offsides, offsides, ref. And then they score, even though she was offsides. When we're blinded by fair, winning, all of this stuff, it is really hard to keep your lid on. Luckily, I have done some work. So at that point in time, these are the thoughts in my head. I am sure the ref has missed calls against us as well. Again, I'm not saying these are the things I'm saying to my kid, but this is what I have to do in my head first. Sure, I do. I think it's frustrating. I'm really disappointed. I don't think that was the right call, but I wouldn't want to go out there and ref. I don't think a ref is needing to be perfect all the time. I see lots of areas and lots of opportunities for my daughter and her team to recognize when someone goes off sides what they did. They saw her off sides, and so the defense just gave up. They like, and they were waiting on the ref to call. Recognize you stop trying, own that you called the play instead of listening to the ref, learn from it. The ref is going to miss calls. How you respond is what matters, right? Roll with it. So learn, how do we play better? We keep going. This ref is going to call some missed offsides. So we are going to have to play better. And what that will do is help her team be better later in the season. Let's bring this into cheer. So in this specific example, it is, yeah, sometimes the judges get it wrong. But I've got to tell you, parents, as much as you might have been around cheer, there are so many nuances to our sport that yes, sometimes even a deduction, a fall, a big fall by another team is still not enough when they have more difficulty or when their choreography is better or when their execution is better than our eyes see it. Because sometimes we, even as coaches, we have these blinders on. We see our team with rose colored glasses and we know their journey. And so we have this emotional view, glasses, when we watch routines like, oh my gosh, they had an athlete injured backstage and that was an alternate the first time they've ever done the routine. So we see that routine as like all great. But the judges saw every, because we're a fixed minded sport, the judges saw every mistake, every athlete off, every misplaced motion, every soft motion, feet not closing at the same time, formations not working like a mirror, not closing and opening at the same time, not hitting sharp. I'm telling you, there's a lot that we don't know as parents about this sport. And so to look at this as, okay, so I'm looking forward to hearing the feedback from the judges. I'm looking forward to hearing what our kids can do better next time so that they're even more prepared. It's kind of like always having a buffer. This is the growth mindset. That doesn't mean we don't get to be upset. Growth mindset doesn't mean you don't get to have your feelings. Growth mindset says, what do you do with those feelings? So for Peggy, I like winning. I would say good try, but she read right through it. My question would be, how do you feel? And my kid would probably say, I'm really pissed off. Why are you pissed off? Because we should have won. Yeah. And I would just reflect back. I'm not teaching her a lesson right now. That's not what I did. My self-regulation, my lane. Now I'm just listening, just hearing how my kid did. Ah, this is so unfair. We should have won. Yeah. You feel like you got cheated. Yeah, that team, they don't have as much difficulty. That's so unfair. We beat them last weekend. These judges were terrible. So you and your team are just gonna kind of brush it off. Is that, am I hearing it right? Yeah. Do you think your practice on Monday is going to be any different than normal? This is just my background is in kinesiology education, so I was a PE teacher, even though I'm maybe not showing it with my knowledge of football. But I was a PE teacher. Uh, and so for me, I do dig pretty hard into those like, and so what's Monday going to look like? Oh, coach is probably going to work us pretty hard. Oh, yeah. Why is Monday going to be a harder practice? Because the coach doesn't want that to happen again. And what do you think about that? What do you think about being pushed harder on Monday? Yeah, I don't want that team to beat us again. Yeah, it's hard when we don't have direct control over the outcome, isn't it? Yeah. But we do have control. Remember, we say this in our family, right? We have direct control over how we respond. So how are you going to respond to this? Oh, Dad, just shut up. I'm upset right now. That is your child saying, get out of my lane. And so I would, growth mindset, apologize. Sorry, it probably doesn't feel good. You're upset right now. And dad's trying to give you the growth mindset way of thinking. I apologize. Wrong lane, dad, wrong lane. I got it. I got it. Sorry. But I would likely, when her lid is back on, maybe the next day, I would totally revisit that. I'm not talking about her tumbling technique. I'm not talking about her team's timing. I'm not talking about her jumps and how great they are. I am just talking about the way in which my child responds to failure, setbacks, disappointments. That's my lane. Jennifer said, I tried to personally, I was super upset, but I tried to stay positive and motivating to the team. So again, questions. How are you all feeling? That's my go-to. Or just, whoo, everyone looks really upset right now. Yeah, super disappointing. And I might even like, what are we proud of? Um, we can never control the outcome of a competition, but we can control how we react. So, what do you all think? Uh, did we hold our heads high? Are we proud of our performance? Yeah, high five. Jennifer added, it's hard and cheer when it's so subjective on judging, which is sometimes hard to explain uh, to my daughter because she's so little. So instead, I mean, I really appreciate you sharing that. That is one of the difficulties in a perfection based sport that's so subjective. When our X marks the spot is winning, outcome focus, look at how upset we get and how often and how out of control we feel. What if instead our X marks the spot was more growth minded? Did we improve our effort? Did we objectively improve our technique? And again, this is not your lane, this is the coach's lane. But your coaches, my hope, I can't force them to do this, but I hope the coaches and with your help, parents, start supporting the stop focusing on winning. Stop focusing on hitting zero. Focus on what you can control. Jeff, wait, but hitting zero, isn't that growth minded? No. Do I have direct control over my main base? Do I have direct control over that stunt over there? No. So then what do we focus on? Did we work hard? Did we roll with it? Are we using a growth mindset? What did you fail at today and learn from? What mistakes did you make that you want to do better at? Wow, I noticed how that tumbling pass, you looked really upset, but I recognize after you were upset, you went and you gave, correct me if I'm wrong, like dropped it, stopped focusing on it, maybe took that deep breath that Coach Dexter talked about, and then really went into that next stunt. That is the growth mindset. Just to go full circle to finish here on parent mindset, how would you react if your child's team placed lower than you felt they should have? Well, that fixed mindset reaction would be, I can't believe it. You were all robbed. You guys were the best team out there. Or even, oh, you guys did great. Did they do great? If it is, you can still do growth mindset and you could say, how are you feeling? Are you proud of yourselves? Do you want to be helped, heard, or hugged? Again, when we glorify and we make excuses and we band together in that fixed mindset discomfort of like, oh, we didn't lose, we were slighted, we are reinforcing that fixed mindset pathway in the brain that says at all costs, we must protect our ego. We must protect the way we see ourselves. The only reason we didn't win is because we were cheated. Every time we make that choice to react in that fixed mindset, we're reinforcing the fixed mindset in cheerleading and the fixed mindset of our society, which creates athletes and future adults who are making excuses for everything that they are doing, who do not take personal responsibility and end up being very fragile and scared for feedback because of what it might mean about them. And so we all have this unique opportunity to make that change. All right. With the closing of our session, let's talk about how we as parents can also help with adopting a growth mindset. I talked about this in the beginning. It was Shelly's question. What is the single most effective thing we can do? Focus on praising effort, process, instead of talent, outcome. How great the stunt was, how beautiful she looked in the air. No, how hard you worked, how you didn't give up, how many hours you put into that heel stretch. Stop posting all of those. Look, my kid finally learned her round off back handspring tuck. She did it. This is the first time. Look at it, how great she is. If you want to post those videos, Just recognize why. I'm doing it because I'm so proud of her. What are you proud of? That tuck? No, I'm proud of her dedication, the amount of hours she put into the gym, the amount of times she failed and got up, and that is what you talk about then. Stop talking about how perfect it is, how beautiful she is, how talented she is, how quickly she learned it. Stop. Sorry, I'm getting in your lane. Please, if you want to develop a growth mindset, I would invite you to find a different way to communicate your pride. Was that better? Look, I was being a little fixed minded. I was getting in your lane. I recognized it. So I apologize, own it. And I corrected it with what deep in my heart I actually feel. Stop telling. That was so amazing. You all were so great. Start asking questions. This is where true confidence comes from. If your kid is happy when they do well and really sad and disappointed whenever they don't, that's not like true confidence. That is really unstable confidence. We're looking for that success in life. You've got to have that stable, unshakable consequence. And we can't get that without challenging ourselves. And so for you all, start asking more questions. Engage your kids. Stop telling them how great you think they are. It's not helping. I'm not saying don't ever, but start asking them how they feel, how they think. Focus on the improvements of what you see in your kids' journey. Stop focusing on the results. Allow your kids to be coached hard. Recognize that, yes, maybe our kid is only here and somebody's coaching them here. Help support your kid in getting there, in maybe having that difficult conversation with the coach. Recognize that failure is an opportunity to become better. 5, model to your kids your mistakes. I hope I modeled that for you tonight. I hope it's been my goal to be relatable, for you to see that I am not perfect. I am not growth minded all the time. I make mistakes, but I try to own them. I have my blind spots. Ask my husband, he can list them for you. I have my blind spots too, but every day I'm just working on trying to be a better version of myself. And the same for you. Allow your kids to struggle. Because when we come in to save the day, because we cannot tolerate them struggling, we're stealing their opportunity to becoming the best, most proficient version of themselves possible. You can't say you want your kids successful in life and steal all of their struggles from them. And finally, one of the things that I often teach is the brain growth formula. It's pretty simple. If you find that your kids are extremely negative on themselves, they really don't see the positives, the brain growth formula works like this. And it is step 1, ask yourself, what did I do better? Or what am I proud of? That would be for your kid. Okay. And the second question is then name one thing you want to do better. So again, we have this like toxic positivity. Be positive all the time. No, you don't need to be positive all the time. Allow yourself to have emotions. Sure, learn to regulate. Just because I'm mad at my husband doesn't mean I get to throw things at him. But I get to feel frustrated and communicate that I'm frustrated or annoyed or disappointed. This is an allowed thing to do. But name one thing you want to do better next time. Try that brain growth formula for your family. Make it like a family standard. If you find that there's a lot of complaining that goes on or a lot of um, criticalness of themselves, maybe on a paper or a test. Oh, I'm so stupid. Stop. We don't say those things. Yes, I hear you. You don't feel you did the best you could. Do you really feel stupid? No, it's not that I'm stupid. I'm just really mad. Great. Say what you actually feel or what you actually think. I think that I could have done better. All right. So, what did you do better on from last time? Well, I studied an extra day. I did go to study group, but I can't believe that's not enough. I feel stupid. High five for going to the study group. High five. In fact, this is a better. This is a 75 in a really hard class that you struggled with. 75 is better than 65. Mom's proud of you. But I hear 75 isn't your goal. So what do you want? And what's one thing you can change next time? That's how we as parents start reinforcing this growth mindset, changing the neural pathways in our athlete or our kids' brains, and stay in our lane. All right. So I got a couple minutes if anyone has any follow-up questions or even comments. Jennifer says, thank you. Well, you're welcome for all this great information. This was super enlightening and really forced some self-reflection, looking in the mirror. I love that for you and your athlete. Jennifer mentioned, I love the difference in praises that are given. It definitely gives me something to think about and work on myself. I love that. I appreciate you, Jennifer, coming in with an open mind and being willing to learn, not just like sitting here, but then also going the next step. I love that. And Peggy had mentioned, I think this is something that everybody, I agree. It's important that the triad, everybody needs this understanding and language. And then what's their lane to help really make that deep, meaningful impact? Well, awesome. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you all being here. I had a great time. I hope you got a lot out of it. And if you're a parent who's watching this on record, thumbs up for watching it this far.